Hey everybody, in this video we're going to share our little adventure we took to Stanley in the Falkland Islands.
Things didn't go exactly as we had planned, but we did get to see some penguins.
Hey everybody, I'm Sean.
And I'm Deb.
And welcome back to the channel. So we thought we would take a little bit of time today and talk a little bit about one of our recent excursions on our Antarctic cruise. We are on our way back, and so we stopped in at Stanley in the Falkland Islands.
So the Falkland Islands is pretty small. It was first discovered first settled in 1764. It is a British overseas territory. And the whole Falkland Islands, the population is maybe somewhere close to 3,700. About 2,500 of these people live in Stanley, which is the only city.
Right.
So
it's a teeny little city.
It is a small little city. So obviously the population is very small. But it was cute though, right on the coast, but small.
Yeah. Most people really only probably know the Falkland Islands just because they heard of it in the news from the 80s when there was a bit of a skirmish between England and Argentina. Yeah. It was not good.
Yeah. So there is no cruise dock in the Falkland Islands. So you do have to tender over. Now, this is where our struggles for the day began.
So tenders, just if you haven't been on a cruise, tenders are little boats, and they take you back and forth from the cruise ship all the way over to the pier.
And apparently we didn't quite understand how this worked because we're not sure what went wrong that day.
This tender process, we've tendered before, Yes.
So it is about a 30-minute ride from the cruise ship over to the port. And they were handing out tickets between 7 and 9. And so my thought was, well, I don't want to go super early because I do want to have breakfast before we go over because we were going to do a lot of walking over there. So we, on our way to breakfast, stopped and got tickets. Maybe between 8 and 8:30.
And earlier they made an announcement and they said group 1 and 2 can come and anybody else that wants to get on can come on because we have plenty of room on the tenders. So we were like, oh, okay.
Had we known, we would have grabbed our bags really fast and gone, but we did not.
No.
So we didn't know. And this was a lesson leared for us for sure. So anyway, between 7 and 9, you can pick up your tickets, probably between 8, 8:15, something like that. We picked up our tickets.
Group 15.
We were only in port from 8 to 4, and we did not catch a tender till noon. We lost half of our day just sitting around and waiting for our tender number to be called. I don't know if something went wrong or if this is normal.
Super windy. So, I mean, so it may have been really hard. And it is a long tender. I mean, half an hour trip is a long tender.
So my lesson is, from now on, when we're on a ship, if we take future cruises, I'm sure we will, and there's tendering involved, I will be in line at 6 a.m., 5 a.m. for the 7 a.m. tickets.
She's going to be getting me up. We're going on the tender.
I'll go grab the coffee and stand in line for the tender. That's okay.
That's okay.
We learned our hard lesson with that one. So anyway, when you do arrive finally in Stanley after 4 hours of waiting, there's a couple of sites that are, I mean, it's a small city. There's a couple sites right there in the port. So maybe just a couple blocks off where the tenders landed. First of all, when we pulled in on a tender, first thing we noticed, well, we were, bumping along, taking video. But as we're pulling into our tender port, on the next little dock over, there was a sea lion.
Big sea lion.
And
he was just sunning, enjoying the day. Because even though it was windy, and choppy, it was a beautiful sunny day. And we got some good
pictures of him later on.
Yeah.
So, in the town, there is the Christchurch Cathedral. Again, just maybe a couple blocks off of where, and then the Whalebone Arch. So,
I mean, if you need to get to Stanley, you can look to the left and see the end of Stanley, and you can look to the right and see the end of Stanley. Like they are, it's not a huge town. And we did a little walk.
But it was cute.
We knew what we wanted to do. So we were trying to hunt for a cab and just kind of walking around, but ready to go on our hike.
All right. So we knew what we wanted to do as an activity in Stanley was to go out to what's called Gypsy Cove. And they do have penguins out there. And so when we did a little bit of walking around, Stanley, what we were doing is looking for a cab because I don't know if it's just because we got off the ship so late that where we got off, probably traditionally there would have been cabs.
There probably would have been cabs waiting for everybody.
Because we actually asked a couple of dock workers and they said, oh, there should be somebody with sign. There was nothing. There was no cabs.
I can't imagine there's a huge fleet of taxis in Stanley anyway.
Probably
it's
not.
A small city, so it's probably like 5 taxis for the whole city. But
so you can walk out to Gypsy Cove, but it is an hour's walk out there. And we were very short on time because we got off the boat so late. And we wanted to walk back.
Yeah.
So we just got creative and there was a double-decker bus sitting there and we asked them.
It was the hop on.
It was a hop-off bus. And so it was $20-some.
$25 each. Yeah. So $50.
And we asked them how many stops before Gypsy Cove and they said it would be the 3rd stop. And we were like, great. So we went and bought tickets for the hop-on for the hop-on, hop-off bus. And then rode it out to Gypsy Cove.
It was an expensive cab ride.
It was an expensive cab ride.
But here's the thing, is the nice thing about it was if we had gotten out to Gypsy Cove and it was too windy or the weather got really bad, it would have been a guaranteed ride back.
Yes,
so there was some security in paying for it.
And as the day went on, the wind grew and grew.
Oh.
Like, had we been on that first early morning tender, we would have had a great walk along we're over it.
Water
we're not
under
going to complain
the
about
bridge.
that. Yes. So anyway, we did make it out to Gypsy Cove. There were penguins down on the beach.
We could see them.
We could see them.
So it's a protected protected
you
area.
Couldn't go out on the beach.
There's very restricted walkways, pathways that you can walk on. But the cool thing is if you pay attention, you might see some little buddies right by the path. And
I had read this, that the baby penguins were actually in little burrows, and because there was a designated walkway along the cliffs.
Yep.
And there were actually workers, park
rangers,
park rangers making sure you're not touching anything you're not supposed to touch.
Right.
But anyway, it was cute. The first one we came across, was just, he was sleeping and you had to just duck down and see him in there.
It was hard. I don't even know if we show the video, I don't even know if you could see him.
It'd be hard
under
to see.
There. Yeah.
But then when we walked on, there was clearly a penguin who was ready to have his picture taken.
He was, hello, how are you doing?
He was young and he was just popped up out of his burrow and entertaining us. And
I think even the park ranger was kind of surprised. Oh, he's out. And he's, she was over there looking and kind of smiling.
So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So then from there, we have planned on walking back to the ship. And I believe it's mostly a coastal walk. However,
mostly,
yeah. We were rushed. And so we were trying to, as much as we could, figure out how to stay close to the coast. And a few times we did. We went down, first of all, from Gypsy Cove, we walked around to, there was a World War II artillery gun.
Yep. It was, we had to, they told us, be back at the pier. The last tender is at 4 o'clock. So in my head, I don't want to be that couple that's running down the pier, missing the tender. And so,
little did we know we did not actually need to be back there by 4. But
we'll get to that. But Deb wanted to do this coastal walk. And I'm like, I don't know if we have time to do this coastal walk. We're going to have to hoof it anyway.
I was like, we're doing it.
So we kind of did the coastal walk. We did some of it. I made her shortcut a little bit of it, but we ended up getting to see some cool stuff. We saw the artillery gun, and that was pretty cool. And then we walked all by ourselves because nobody was out there. It was just us.
No, I think everyone was out walking earlier in the day.
Right.
So we're not dwelling on that.
Nope.
And so anyway, then we walked down to Whale Cove.
Which was really cool.
That was very cool.
Yeah.
So Lady Elizabeth is located. Lady Elizabeth, and I will say there's another
shipwrecks there too.
Shipwreck there too, and we're not.
So Lady Elizabeth's the big famous one. Yeah.
So the other one I'm not sure what it was called, but Lady Elizabeth. So
very cool.
Yes, Lady Elizabeth. It was built in 1879, so it was a very older ship. It at one point had gotten I don't want to say injured.
Damaged. Yeah, it was damaged. It was injured for a ship. Yeah.
Damaged. It had run into a rock, and then from then was just used, I think, more as a local cargo ship. But so it stayed in and around Port Stanley until 1936, at which point there was a storm came along and the mooring of the ship was damaged, broke. and it drifted over into Whale Cove, and it's just sat there ever since.
They've just stuck it there. So it's a neat kind of tourist attraction.
It's very scenic. It makes for some good pictures.
Like when you look at the pictures, you can get that like a cool frame of the Lady Elizabeth, and then behind it is Stanley. So it's, I mean, it's very pretty. And then there's that other little cool shipwreck as well. So yeah.
And then from there, we theoretically should have just been able to walk along the coast back into town.
But we missed it.
We tried. We maybe caught part of it, but maybe I don't know if we made a wrong turn somewhere, because at one point you have to get off and go for a little bridge. And so we went across that little bridge, and that was the point at which somehow we missed getting back on the coast. Right. But we were in a hurry because we were like, have to be back to the ship
by 3:30 because the last tender's at 4.
Sean really wanted to be back by 3:30.
3:30.
So, okay. So
hold on. So I mean, you'll see, like we walked the back roads.
Yeah, we were on the back roads.
We were not on like a coastal trail.
Yes.
We were on the back roads.
But I knew there was a coastal trail because, but somehow we missed it.
So then we did have kind of, in order to get back into Stanley, kind of a nice little walk through the town of Stanley, which was nice. Yeah.
So when we did get back into the port area of Stanley,
when we got to the pier,
the massive
we weren't the only
crowds.
ones. Yeah.
And there was like a massive, well, first of all, the line, to get in is here, but then it wound back and forth and then
went way down the street.
All the way down the street.
Yeah.
And we're walking down the street, and a couple of times I just checked and would say Norwegian, like making sure we're getting in the right line.
Is this the right ship?
And the people would be like, yep.
Yep.
And so we got all the way to the back of the line. And by the time we got up to like closer to the front, that line had already was
gone all the way back down the line. Yeah.
It was just insane. So we waited in line maybe a couple hours.
It was a couple hours.
So we could have took a more leisurely walk.
We could have walked halfway around Stanley, right? Yes. Around the whole island.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I will say, on the walk, probably because we were hurrying, I got really hot on the walk, like taking off my layers, and it was hot. But then when we got back to stand in line, when you're just standing still and the wind had really picked up, and it started to get really cold at that point. I'm putting layers back on. But as we're standing in line and getting closer to the front, the Norwegian did have hot chocolate waiting for us. So
it was nice.
That was very nice.
Yeah. Yes. So, I mean, it was fine. I think it was a perfect example. We talked about it afterward. We're like, you always hope for the best and plan for the worst. Yeah. And
not everything goes as planned.
Exactly right. And so I think we learned a couple lessons from it. Tender days, we're off the ship and early, right? Going to do the things we want to do. Yeah. Sometimes, my lesson learned, I think, was that sometimes when people tell you they're super established paths, sometimes they're not. Because even the coastal path part that we did walk, we were like, are we on the path? I think we're on the path.
And a couple times we could tell we're on the path. You could clearly tell.
And the park ranger did tell us, she's like, it's pretty windy over there. You can go at your own risk. She said, don't get lost.
She did say, but I'm supposed to tell you not to go that way.
Right.
And we're like, we'll be fine.
But she's like, don't get lost. I think she was like really more worried about us like wandering off.
And you really can't get lost because the ocean's always over there somewhere.
Yeah, so you can navigate.
Going in the right direction.
So we learned a few lessons. We had a good time. We got to ride on a British double-decker hop-on, hop-out bus. We got to see penguins, which was like super cool. So, it was worth it. I thought Stanley was kind of a cute little port, just as kind of somewhere to stop and see what was going on. So it was nice. Yep. So that's pretty much it. We thought we'd share that little adventure with you.
It was an adventure.
If you have any questions about our time in Stanley or the Falkland Islands, just let us know. Leave a comment below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next video.
Thank you for joining us.